54-day Rosary Novena saved my marriage. I've made many videos about the 54-day Rosary Novena. I made a part 1 to this video talking more about the general details of praying a 54-day Rosary Novena. And then I made a video a very long time ago about the history of the Rosary Novena and how to pray it. So I will link both of those in the description box below. Today's video is about how the Rosary Novena, that one 54-day Rosary Novena that I did for my marriage, was answered. It was not answered in the way that I thought, but that's the thing that's so cool about the Rosary Novena. And so cool about God is we think we know the answer, but really God knows the answer. God will answer your prayers. It's not going to look the way you thought it was going to look, but it's going to look better. And in this story, what's so incredible about is how much the Lord really healed my heart, healed me, because when I went into this 54-day Rosary Novena for my marriage, I had a lot of things that I wanted God to change in my husband, and then God transformed me. And that was really the best thing that God could have ever done for me. And by transforming me, He transformed my family and my marriage. And at the end of the day, don't we all just want happy marriages and happy homes? I want to get to where everything started, or briefly touch on where I started feeling challenged in my marriage. Because up until 2023, I would have said we had like the perfect marriage. And I still think we have an incredible marriage. I'm so blessed for my husband. He's the answer to so many prayers. I waited for my husband. I was 31 when I met him. I prayed for him from the time I was 23, like so many novenas, 22 actually. I prayed so many novenas and prayers from the time I was 22 until I was 31. And I mean, I continued on to pray for him, but just to meet him and begin our life together. And I had to wait 9 years before I met him. And if I had realized that, I don't think I would have been okay. That's why God doesn't always tell us His plans, because if we hear them, sometimes it's like, okay, God, what are we doing here? We know that God's plans are better than our plans, but that doesn't mean that it's not painful to let go of our plans. And that was a really long wait. So without realizing it, I had made my husband an idol. All those years of waiting made me, I really just wanted the physical presence of love. Like, we all desire love. And I believe that desire comes from love of Christ, love of God, desire for communion with Christ. But some of us are called to marriage, and I was called to marriage, and I really wanted that physical presence of a man in my life. I wanted someone to hold me and love me and protect me and provide for me. All of those things I found in my husband, as well as a spiritual, someone that I really admire and respect spiritually, someone that really loves God and pursues God, which I love about my husband. I think that is one of his best qualities and one of the things that makes me confident in him, even when I'm not. Even when I'm struggling with him, I'm confident in his desire for goodness, and that is something I can always comfort myself with. A storm came against our family in 2023, and then it just felt unrelenting through 2024. Like, I think I expected 2023 to not be easy because we were welcoming our second son. Our kids were going to be 14 months apart. I didn't expect it to be a walk in the park. What happened in 2023, I just couldn't have foreseen how hard it was going to be. My son had colic. My second son that I gave birth to had colic, cried all the time, didn't sleep at all. And then on top of that, my first son started regressing. And it turned out that he has autism. That regression was extremely hard on me because I had what I thought was a neurotypical 14-month-old. And then my son just completely disappeared before my very eyes. And that went on for a year and a half. Like, his regression got worse and worse and worse and worse. Like, from 1.5 to 3, he continuously lost skills. It was up there with one of the hardest things that I've ever been through. And navigating, like, getting specialists and diagnosis and therapies, I just felt so overwhelmed. On top of that, I had my younger son who was just really difficult and didn't sleep well. And then my husband switched jobs, and the job was supposed to be a financial blessing to us, which it was. It did financially bless us. But the cost of the financial blessing was that my husband was going to go to Korea for 2 months, and my understanding when we had signed up for it was that our whole family was going to go, And then a week before the trip, my husband came to me and said that me and my kids couldn't go. And I had been planning for this for 2 months, and I was not prepared to be left alone with my toddler that I didn't know what was wrong at the time. Like, I didn't think autism. I just knew something was wrong. I didn't know how to. And at the time, I was like, if I only try harder, he'll get better. And I was really having a hard time with that because I was putting so much in, not really understanding why my efforts weren't working, and then comparing him to other kids. So I was going through all of that. I had a son that woke up, another son that woke up like 3 to 4 times a night, 6 times a night. I mean, you really just never knew with him what was going on. Just very challenging. And I was not prepared for my husband to leave me. We don't have a lot of family support here. We don't have hands-on like family basically that babysits my kids or helps me with my kids. I felt extremely alone and isolated, and the only person I had for support was my husband, and I really did not want my husband to go away. As I said, I had prayed for him for 9 years, and he was my rock. He was my strength. He is so loving and thoughtful, and he's always looking to take care of me and make my life better and easier. And I had become accustomed to that, having someone in my life that was trying to make my life better and easier, and him leaving, it felt like he left. Like, I know that he didn't actually quote unquote leave me, but it felt like he left me, and I didn't want him to leave, and it just felt I felt abandoned is the only way to say it. I felt abandoned, and I didn't realize at the time that I had made my husband an idol. I did not realize at the time that my husband was number one to me and not God, because I still prayed every day. I still said I loved God, but how radically it affected me, him being gone, it wasn't just like his physical presence not being there, because obviously I physically was able to get through it. We got through the 2 months of him being gone, and I made it. And it was very hard, but I made it. But there was definitely a psychological and spiritual component to it, because I was being basically ripped away from who I had made God without realizing it, who I had made number one in my life. And Christ during that time remained so close to me. And it's funny because I had all these revelations about that experience and what God was doing for me in it. That like incredible suffering, let me tell you, I've never felt so alone in my whole life. And I felt like feeling alone is a cross I have carried on and off my whole life since I was a little child. That wound being like reopened was very hard on me. But again, the Lord, I've said this I think in the first part of this, the Lord is a surgeon, and when you pray the 54-day Rosary Novena, he's gonna do surgery on you. You didn't know you signed the consent forms for the surgery, but you're in it, you know? You are under anesthesia and he's working on you. And you're like, wait a minute, I thought you were going to work on him. I was praying for him to change, not me. What are you doing? The Lord started doing so much surgery on my heart with my consent through the 54-day Rosary Novena, but not how I thought it would go. I started realizing in the 54-day Rosary Novena, I didn't realize this while Matt was gone, that I had made Matt an idol. And the reason that whole experience was so painful for me was because I really did not feel that God would provide for me and take care of me. When you go through great suffering, the Lord is stripping away sin from you. He's stripping away all the sins that you have been putting between you and him, and he's bringing you closer to him. And it is so painful, but it is so beautiful. And if you allow yourself to lean into him in the suffering, he will transform your life. When you lean into the cross becomes lighter. When you finally embrace your cross, Christ will lift it up for you. I made a whole video about things I learned during that time period when Matt was gone, so I will link it in the description box below, because I think there were just so many beautiful things God did for me in that great suffering when I was going through it. But during the 54-day Rosary Novena, God started making me aware of that time frame. The reason it was so painful for me was because I had made Matt an idol, as I said. God really needs to be number one in your life. Something I'm learning from reading the Bible every day is, especially I started reading the Old Testament, and that's something I'm going to actually do a Bible study on this channel for. I was reading about the Israelites and how they kept doing idol worship. Like, it's kind of incredible to me for some reason how much they just picked up an idol at any chance they got. Like, their lack of trust in God is amazing, considering God was reigning food from the sky, providing water from rocks. Like, they saw so many miracles and they still had trouble with belief. So we should give ourselves a little bit of a break. After he came back from Korea, those resentments from feeling abandoned by him, even though he was doing the right thing from our family, were starting to fester in my heart. He had come down from the pedestal that I had placed him on, and I began to see all his flaws, or really magnify all his flaws. And as I said, we were going through so many hard things in 2023 and then in 2024. And especially when he came back from Korea, I had this vision that everything was going to be perfect again. Everything was going to be the way it had been. And it felt like everything kind of seemingly got worse, especially because I was going through so much with my son. We were under a lot of stress. We were under financial stress. My husband's job was very unsupportive of what I would say families. They did not make it easy for Matt to be a dad. And what's sad is, as I said, we don't have like a lot of support other than friends, but it's like all my friends are moms. Like, it's drowning people helping drowning people. There's only so much you can do with that. So I really leaned on my husband a lot, especially because I have health issues and I wasn't sleeping at night. I was struggling with insomnia from the anxiety of I think from not sleeping for like a year with my son. Then even when he started sleeping through the night, I still wasn't sleeping through the night. I had terrible insomnia and anxiety that also was fueling all of this stress. We had financial stress. My son, Theodore, was regressing with autism, and I was trying to figure out what was going on there. So there was just like all this stress on our family. And I did the number one thing that I know is the wrong thing to do, but it's funny how you can know something and practicing it can be so different. One of the best marriage advice I've ever heard is, when you get married, Christ needs to be at the center of your marriage. God needs to be first. Always, and if both of you are facing God, then you are together and you are not making each other God, which, lol, I was making my husband God, and then I had thrown him off that pedestal. I started blaming my husband for our life's challenges. I blamed my husband for all the things that were going on in our family. Everything. I blamed him for everything, even stuff to do with Theodore. Like, I was blaming him for things he had no control over. I was really blaming him. And because of that, I went into this spiral of questioning our marriage, questioning if I had made a mistake, which, if you've heard my story and my testimony, I made no mistake. God made it very clear that my husband was the right person for me, and my husband's the most wonderful man. I just want to say that above all things, my husband's a good man. The Lord, in all of this stripping away, all this suffering, all this pain, the Lord revealed some ugly things about me that I needed to heal. One of them was I wasn't being a good wife. I wasn't looking at my husband as my teammate. I was looking at my husband as like the reason for all of our problems, and that wasn't fair. And I know that made everything worse because I know he felt it. I know he felt it. I was being extremely critical of him. And one of the things during this season that God revealed to me is like to stop criticizing my husband. I'm still working on that, which is embarrassing. Like, it's embarrassing to say I'm so critical of my husband. I'm embarrassed to say that I can be very critical of my husband, and it's not a good thing. It's very eroding to the foundation of your marriage. You need to break free from that. If you're doing it, you need to break free from it. Learning to have control over my tongue has been another thing the Lord has been really helping me with, because my mouth can be used for great things and it can be used for the devil. I have what I would call a viper tongue. I can be very uncharitable and unkind. That is probably the sin that I struggle with the most, aside from probably pride, is not having control over my mouth and not being charitable with my words. During this season of my husband falling from grace in my eyes and us going through all these problems, I had a log in my own eye that I was so blind to. And this Bible verse came up to me while I was going through this, while I was praying the 54-day Rosary Novena. Matthew chapter 7, verses 3 through 5. Why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me remove that splinter from your eye, while the wooden beam is in your eye? You hypocrite, remove the wooden beam from your eye first. Then you will see clearly to remove the splinter from your brother's eye. This this was the story of my 54-day Rosary Novena. The Lord removed the wooden beam in my eye so that I could see that Matt only had a splinter. I needed to change a lot in my own heart and my own belief system. I committed to my marriage on my wedding day, but then I was questioning my marriage commitment. I was questioning if I had made the right choice, and I was going through, and it sounds very benign. Oh, you were questioning. Questioning is very evil, okay? I made a commitment for the rest of my life, forever and always. There shouldn't be any questioning. There is no question. And what's crazy is I would be so hurt if my husband did that about me. I would be so hurt if my husband did that about me, but I was questioning so much our marriage. I'm gonna cry because it's actually so sad and so scary, and I feel like I see this very normalized in our culture. There's this big push on social media, this divorce culture. And let me tell you, listen, I'm not for being in a dangerous situation. I'm not for when you're married to someone that didn't make a true, honest commitment to you. The Catholic faith has very clear guidelines on what a marriage is. But when you marry someone, they're not perfect, and you are not perfect. Surprise, surprise, you're not perfect. And it surprised me. I mean, not really, but in a way, yes. Surprise, surprise, not perfect. And it doesn't matter how hard you try or how earnest you are, if you don't have love in your heart for your spouse, if you don't have love, mercy, humility, prayerfulness, and commitment above all things, you should not be questioning. If you made a commitment, the questioning was for your dating season. The questioning was for your engagement season. Questioning is not for after you married your spouse. You married them. Be done with it. Be done with the questioning. This is something that I would think about a lot when I was going through this season. I knew everything about my husband that I struggle with in our marriage, minus one thing. There is one thing I did not know, but everything else, one challenge with him, I did not know. But everything else I knew before we got married. I was not surprised by. But when you're dating someone, you just gloss over those things. You just gloss over those quirks, those things you don't love, because you think you'll not care. And then when you're married to someone, the commitment gets real, and you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't really think about how I signed up for this. But no matter who you marry, you'd have that. No one's perfect, and you have your beam in your eye, so you think you're great, but it's just them that's the problem. And then God will be like, no. It's you too. It's you too. That's what he did with me. He's like, Mary, I know you think you've got it down, but you're really just really far from who you think you are. And that was a good thing. Being humbled is a good thing. I've been humbled so much the last 2 years. I'm sure I'll be humbled more as my life goes on, and it's painful. It's not fun, but humility makes you happier and freer and closer to Christ. So I would rather be humbled and be happy in my marriage than be proud and have a family that's destroyed because I travel further down the road of sin. At the end of my 54-day rosary, so I prayed this 54-day rosary novena for my marriage, and I was still pretty unhappy with my husband, I'm not gonna lie. I was still pretty unhappy in our marriage. I hate saying that because it's just uncomfortable to say, but I was unhappy in my marriage. God gave me a vision at the last day of my 54-day Rosary Novena, and this is maybe not sound profound to anyone watching this, but it was profound to me. It radically changed my heart and my life and my marriage. He gave me a vision of him standing in front of me and Matt and holding us together. In that moment, I knew that God wanted my marriage, that I knew that Jesus wanted my marriage. And it was the first breakthrough I had that whole 54-day Rosary Novena. Things had been so hard, and things just seemingly kept getting worse and worse and worse between us. And then I had that vision of Jesus holding us together. And I had this realization that he wanted our marriage. He wanted our marriage to work. I realized how much I had been questioning my marriage. I realized how much I had been questioning my husband, how much I had been picking him apart, looking at all of his flaws and magnifying all of his flaws. And I became so aware of how much I had harshly judged him, and my heart became fully softened to him. And that's when I realized how devilish that questioning can be, and how devilish that criticalness that I had. I thought I was helping him become his best version of himself. That's crazy. I sometimes I do things that scare me, and I'm like, I'm even afraid to make these YouTube videos because I'm like, what if I look back and I'm like, what were you thinking? I thought I was like my husband's life coach and I needed to make him better by telling him all the things I thought he needed to change about himself. Like, what a nightmare. And my husband poured it so beautifully and I love him so much and I'm so grateful for him. And you know what's wild? So when God changed my heart and made me aware of the questioning and the criticalness and just fully softened me, like, it's crazy. In one instance, the tension I had been feeling for like 2 years building up was gone in one vision. It's so incredible. Like, that's the thing. God can change your heart in a moment. God can change your life in a moment. You need God. You need to turn everything over to God. And when you do, He'll do everything for you. And it's not going to be the everything that you thought you wanted. It's not. He didn't do anything about the silly things that I was mad at my husband over. But He changed me and He healed me and He healed parts of me. And that's what I needed. He will set you free. He will set you free. If you've struggled in your marriage, you know this. It's so miserable. It's such a miserable, scary existence. I felt set free in that moment and it changed everything. And as I said, I stopped resenting my husband. I really started taking a step back, holding my tongue and not being critical, praising the things I love about him, the things that I think he does well. I started writing 6 things that I love about him every day, and I tried to change every day. Like, I wanted it to feel true no matter what I was writing, but I would try to find new things or something that felt meaningful to me in that day that really helped me start changing my heart and mind towards him. When I'm frustrated with him, I pray for him. I've also been trying to implement us praying together more as a family, doing a family rosary on Sundays on our way home from church or to church. Also looking to the saints that have been through difficult marriages. Saint Rita and Saint Monica are 2 that I often think of and go back to. And also Mother Angelica, who I have a deep, deep devotion to, who I believe is a saint. She came from a difficult marriage. Her father was abusive to her mother. Her father abandoned her and her mother. She had a very hard home life. I highly recommend you pray the 54-day Rosary Novena. I have all the pray along videos you need to pray along to the 54-day Rosary Novena. It makes it super easy to get the 54-day Rosary Novena done. I have this joyful, sorrowful, and glorious in petition, and then joyful, sorrowful, glorious in thanksgiving. So everything you need to get through the 54 days. I cannot recommend it enough. I am really proud of the way the videos came out. They've been helping me finish another 54-day Rosary Novena that I'm praying for. And I would ask you to please keep my family in your prayers, and I will be keeping you and your family in your prayers. Please comment anything that you would like me to pray for specifically. I love talking with y'all in the comments. It is the joy of my life connecting with you. It makes all of the hard work that I put into this YouTube channel worth it. So thank you so much for watching, and please give it a thumbs up if you liked this video.